Hello everyone, I'm Toma and this is part 2 from this two-part series with photos that I made during this autumn. I choose to start this second part video with a photo that it's not a landscape. It's an interior photo of a destroyed and grungy and abandoned old small house. And what I really liked about this interior was the fact that the colors look just like an old painting, and the reason for which I took this photo is because inside this house was a calendar on the wall, and the calendar said, if I remember correctly, 1997. So at some point during 1997, the last person that lived here decided that either decided that he or she is going to leave this house, either that person passed away and the house basically remained and in decadence over the years. So I really liked the fact that it seemed that all the things were untouched. There was also a table, dishes under the table, and cabinets and clothing and all sorts of things. So it kind of looked like an untouched place, a place untouched for years. So and because of the colors of the wall and the clothing and all those things that reminded me of an old painting, I decided to take this photo. It's not my kind of photo. I like shooting abandoned places. I will do another presentation of portfolio after this video with my spooky photos, and I will present some techniques over there, but I'm usually a landscape photographer. So let's get going. Okay, to the next photo. That it's a basic landscape photo, the photos that you are used to see from me. Now I decided to take this photo, of course, because of the sun rays that are coming through the trees, and the decision of framing this photo was, first of all, to frame the rays of light, but also have a simple geometry in the frame. As you can see, there are only few trees over here, so I positioned myself to create dimension, to have these trees on one side of the sun rays and the other trees behind the sun rays. Okay, and of course the exposure was measured for the light, and the result was these trees went into almost complete darkness, and these other trees are in light. Also, you can see the sun rays very well. Now, when this kind of event can appear, well, it usually appears in cold mornings, or after right after the sun is breaking down the fog, and what you are seeing is the light catching the last pieces of fog, if I can say something like this. And during cold mornings when the sun is coming up, so during mornings during spring or during autumn, the sun comes up and it rises all that cold dew and cold moist from over the night, and those the humidity creates some particles in the air and the rays can be seen. This is, I think, simply put, why you can see the sun rays and when you can see the sun rays. So let's get going to the next photo. What I liked here was the light shining on this small tree over here. Of course that I would have loved not having those trees over here, but you are in the forest, and you can't argue with the chaos of the forest. You have to work with it as it is. This is something that I learned over the years, that Landscape photography, it's not about what you want to see, but it's about what you are really seeing and feeling. So learn how to make the best out of what you see, instead of wishing, oh, I'd wish I would see that, or the light would do that, or other things that are not going to happen, because Mother Nature has its own plans, and you are too small to count in these plans. So whenever you see something that you like in this situation over here, where I exposed, not necessarily for the light, but for the leaves that are shrouded in this light. So when you see something like this, try to make the best of it and not wish for something more, because these kind of events usually end up pretty quickly, because the sun ends to warm the soil, and the moist evaporates, and there will be no rays, so you have to move quickly. Okay, another special moment. I admit that the forest is messy in this place. There's a lot of vegetation that I don't like, and also it has a really strong diagonal from one side to another, which I don't like in my photos. But in this case, I think the entire subject is this light coming down and shining just a small portion of ground over here. So this is my composition, and this is the thing that kind of fights against the strong diagonal that divides the frame into two zones. So I'm using this light as a counterweight, and to also define some sort of composition, and also exposing right for this area over here, and then going into post-processing and adding some more contrast. I'm concentrating the viewer's eye over this area over here, and hoping that all this clutter and this vegetation will diminish in its importance. This is a close-up. I think it's 105 millimeters, and I really like the silhouettes of the trees. This is the main thing that or the goal of this photo. I tried doing only this kind of silhouettes, but the photo lacked dimension, lacked depth, and that is why I've also included these two other silhouettes of trees. As you can see, this one is much closer to the camera because it's out of focus, and then this one is further away. Even though you can't tell because of the way it's framed, this game of blur, sharper, and even sharper creates a sense of dimension. And also dark over here and light over here again creates a sense of dimension. And that is the reason for which I try to include these two elements in this photo. And of course, I've shifted just a little bit the entire atmosphere to cyan, and I added a little bit of blue to the scene because I want it to be a cold scene, just like I felt it. The temperature in that moment was pretty cold, and I wanted to transmit that by using this cold color. So if I wanted to create the impression of a warmer temperature, I think I would have used a tint of orange, let's say. But in this case, I think that the fog really works well with this cyan tint on it. Another moment, all these moments were done during one day when I basically ran through three different forests, chasing this light that was basically driving the fog away. And in this case, again, having this tree over here and the other one over here, and these in this what it looks like a clearing. It's not a clearing. This forest without this light would be a uniform forest, but the light creates a separation between planes and helps me define again depth and dimension and in my photo. And again, I'm trying to isolate portions of the forest and to have some kind of order in the elements that I introduce, that I include in my photos. For example, I have this tree over here, I have the other tree over here, so it's kind of going from this tree to this tree to this tree and so forth until you reach the light. And of course that my intention was the viewer to be concentrated on this light, but I'm also using these two trees as pillars, as guardians, and as elements that will channel your attention to this area over here. This is a more radical interpretation, a more artistic interpretation. This was done during one of my workshops when I really liked the small church and the small old traditional house that no one lives here anymore. And there's around this church there is also a really small cemetery for I think it's used by the few families that live in this area over here. And I really liked this this editing post-processing, because I think it emphasizes more these two buildings over here. I don't know, it kind of creates a colorful background. It sets the mood of autumn, and it also helps the viewer concentrate only on these two elements. I think that blurring these trees in this manner, in this fashion, helps the viewer create a little story, and each person that looks at this photo creates his or her own story, because you see a small house, you see a small church. Of course that we are connected. There is a connection between these two buildings, and I try to capture this or to express that this kind of connection, something like you are living near the church, or maybe your children were baptized here, you are getting married here, and in the end you are getting buried here in the cemetery. It's always this kind of emotion that I'm after when I'm photographing old places that in many cases are not habited anymore. So this kind of emotion moves me. The idea that at some place in time, many years ago, small children were running around this house, and in this house there was happiness and there was sorrow and all the things that life has to offer. And of course that there is this connection with the church over here, and in the end both buildings this one is not habited anymore but fairly in good shape, and the church, I don't know if it's used. It looks that it's used very rarely. And this sense of loneliness and the sense of buildings that are fading, that are slowly fading away, it's kind of it creates a strong emotion, I think, at least in my opinion. And I really hope that I managed to express in just few words my idea of this for this photo and for this interpretation. Okay, here's a classical composition where you have something that starts over here and then goes to the upper third region of the photo, but also has a counterweight. It's not a strong diagonal that goes from here to this part over here. As I said, I don't like this kind of compositions. You will need many breakdown points along a strong diagonal that starts over here and ends over here. In this case, I have something. I have more lines. I have this lines that goes over here. I have this line that goes over here. I have this vertical line that goes over here. So basically, I'm working in triangle shapes, and I think that all the lines lead. Of course, also the tree, but this is only by luck. The tree is pointing over here. What I created in my photo were this line over here and this line over here through positioning, and of course I used also this vertical, but this is another natural element. It will always be this vertical over here, but depending on your position, you can create this equilibrium, this balance between this side and this side. So I think that you have to be careful when you're doing this kind of compositions. Also, I try to emphasize the green vegetation from the wall and the few leaves, or the few colorful leaves that are in the water. And just as a really finesse touch, I've enhanced this flowing of the water, but just enough. If I would have gone too far with this area over here, I would have drawn the eye from this area that leads the eye towards here. So this is only a hint that will guide you to the portal over here. This is the small house that you saw here. So this is the small house. This is how it looks from its courtyard. And I choose to go black and white and then edit it with textures on top to create that vintage look, that old look, that look that says many stories had happened here, or this place can tell many stories of different elements or different things that happened here over many years. So I wanted to create an illustration of something really old, and you can't say from this photo that it's abandoned, and it's only a photo that evokes something really old. This was my intention with this kind of editing. Along the way, so we walked at the workshop. We walked by these houses, and then through the forest and through old small dirt roads that almost no one uses anymore. And at some point we've reached this house that has all the dishes out, and where this lovely old lady lived. And she came out from the house and she stood on this piece of wood, and kind of every person tells you a small story when you're open to them, and when they see that you don't want to, I don't know, you don't want anything from them. Many persons open up and tell stories about their life, and those moments I think are crucial if you want to capture the moment, because you have to be very careful in this kind of situations. The person that is telling the story kind of gets into the mood of the story and basically relives moments that she was telling us about. And of course that you can see from her eyes that the story was not a happy one, and I felt very honored that I was able to be there and capture this photo of her standing in front of her house. And I think it's a beautiful photo of a really beautiful person that had a life, had emotions, had experiences, and had something to share with us. Okay, moving on to another foggy day in my forest. And as you can see here, the centerpiece of this photo is this tree over here. Again, the composition has to be simple, and I'm using different elements to lead the eye toward this main element over here. Here's a photo manipulation with two trees. If you, I received a comment from one of my friends that these trees look like the feet of a giant dinosaur, and if you can picture a giant dinosaur of a giant mutant chicken, you can do something like this. This is one of my recent interpretations for a foggy day in the forest, and I really like this this idea. I try in many of my photos to create this concept of tree of life, or tree of the forest, of the old tree of the forest. I don't know, the concept of a special tree, of a different tree in the forest. And I have different techniques to do that. In this case, I used the mirroring technique, and also edited in such a way that the eye stays focused on this area over here. Again, this was a day when I was very fortunate to have fog in the forest, while the light during sunset was coming through the fog, and that is why this kind of atmosphere was created. Well, the fog helped me create a much more simple frame, helped me get rid of all the clutter of the forest. Of course, that I could have cloned this small element over here, but this was not the case for the presentation of these photos. Again, same sunset, same fog that helped me define some kind of mystery going along the trail, and also the light that is coming, capturing the light that is coming through the fog. It's very important. It is extremely important to have details in this area, and also have details in this area where you have the light. And these are some photos from my latest workshop on top of Chahlo Mountain, a workshop that ended the last weekend. What I really liked here is a photo. First of all, this is a photo made during the sunrise, and I really liked the way the sun was shining. Let's take a look at 100%, for example. I really liked the sun, how the sun was shining on the edges of this rock, and the difference in color temperature. This was the thing that I've noticed, that this side was really cold and this side was really warm. Starting from here and going to this region over here, the image is warm, and this side is cold. So I really like the opposition between these two colors. Let's see, another composition during this workshop. I have a really big and strong foreground element that leads to the element in the background, and for this kind of shot I've waited for the sun to go down and to have this clouds capturing or catching this red tint. And of course that I've used this area over here to basically tell a story that we are on the cliff that goes, and the eye goes to this area over here. And after the sun really went down, we took a group photo. This is me over here, and these are the other participants to the workshop. I really like the silhouettes. I really like some that everyone was doing something. As you can see, we also have a rocker between us. And this was made with a 17mm lens on a full frame body, and that is why you're seeing this hand so big. I don't know, for other situations this kind of a hand would not work. For example, if you're shooting weddings, you don't want to make a bride with this kind of a long hand or a long leg. But in this situation, I think it works well. It adds a dynamic to the frame. So after this, after the sunset, it was beautiful. It followed the second morning. We had this sunrise, this beautiful sunrise, where I used this this rock as an entrance point, and then all the other elements. But all the reason for which I took this photo was the light in the cloud, and it was a really windy morning. As you can see, let me show you. If you take a look at the vegetation over here, these small pine trees, I don't know if you can see, but the wind was really blowing through them and they were moving like crazy. It was a really windy morning, but as you can see, in these harsh conditions and conditions where no one leaves the warm of their beds in the morning, these are the mornings where you can create some special and interesting photos. And during autumn and late autumn, all these magical sunrises and sunsets appear because there are changes in the atmosphere. That is cold, that is warm, and all these differences create clouds and create basically an interesting and beautiful atmosphere for you to capture. Also during that same morning, I saw these clouds forming above this peak, and I really liked the trail that goes to the peak. And I also positioned myself to have this touristic sign pointing to the peak, although the route it's not going to the peak. This route goes down from the mountain, but as a visual hint, I think that it's helpful. It's helpful to create a balance in the photo. This sign over here is very important for the equilibrium of the photo. And in the last night, we also made some light painting. We have this rock over here, and I choose to light it up in a more dramatical way, and also have the sky over here with all the stars. It was very difficult because we were so many to be positioned exactly to have the Milky Way above this rock over here, and I had to make compromise so that all of the participants have an interesting sky above. So if I would have, maybe I will go back alone and make this light painting again, just to have the Milky Way straight above the rock. And of course that up on the mountain, when you're climbing, when you're hiking up, there is late autumn, and when you're coming down is almost winter. This is the group, this is me over here. Here we are leaving the mountain, the workshop is over. And also, as you can see, I'm also a rocker. And it's not only the end of the workshop, but it's also the end of autumn. So the leaves are gone from the trees, and now I'm waiting for the winter to come to have some lovely winter shots. So this was part 2 of this video that I wanted to show some of my photos, some of the photos that I took during this autumn. I will do another portfolio video after this one, because I feel that my community is growing with people that are not from Romania, and people that are not from Romania don't know the kind of photos that I'm doing. So I decided to show you few of my portfolio photos, and the next video will be with my, let's say, spooky, creepy horror photos, and I will show one of my photo. It's also a cover for a movie, but it's only the web cover, and I will show you that photo in the next video. So until next time, keep on photographing. It's the only way that you can get better, and please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you want to see more videos like this and other videos. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.